Hello all, welcome to TechGig webinars. There goes a saying, management is doing things right, leadership is doing the right things. Relating to that, the topic for today's webinar session is My 5 Leadership Mantra. It's my privilege to introduce you Ms. Vidya Lakshman, Chief Operating Officer at ThoughtWorks Studios as speaker amongst us today. Vidya currently heads the global operations at ThoughtWorks Studio. Her past role have given her a rich and diverse mix of business development, strategic planning, program management, and operational excellence in a global delivery model. Gentlemen, this presentation will continue for 45 minutes and you can ask your questions to the speaker by typing in the chat pane available. So, without further ado, I hand over the session to Ms. Vidya.
Yes, I hope you all can hear me. Good afternoon and thank you for joining the webinar. When I was told to talk about leadership, I was really curious to know how many books have been written about leadership. And I did a search. Can anybody take a guess how many? Actually, there are 41,000 titles available on Amazon alone. Now that I've shared that there are limitless mantras, I promise that I will not be going I will not be talking about all of them, but I've chosen my top 5 mantras and will try to keep it to the time limit of 45 minutes. So before we dive into the mantras, I want to talk about this quote. I think it says it all. Leadership is action, not position. How many times have we worked with people who always try to talk about their title in the conversation? I used to work for one who would at any given chance get his title in the conversation. I am the VP, so I need these reports, or I am the VP, so I should attend these meetings. But the truth is, he had a title, but I'm not sure whether he was really considered a good leader by his peers or the people who worked for him. This actually leads to the next question. Who is a leader? How does one look? How does one behave? Unfortunately, I don't have the answers for all of this, and there are no cookie cutter models either. Leadership, I believe, can come and does come in many different shapes and forms. They truly don't conform to a template. Actually, they don't even follow a party line. Look at some of the well-known leaders like Mahatma Gandhi, or Indira Nooyi, or Jack Welch, or Narayan Murthy. They push the limits. For that matter, a colleague sitting next to you, he could be a leader. So they all look different, speak differently, come from different backgrounds. But one thing common is the personal satisfaction on job well done. I'm guessing on this webinar, they could be students, junior management, middle management, and entrepreneurs attending. And the only key message that I have is let your actions speak, not the position or title. Now, let me dive into my first mantra. Take a long view of the future. I started my career in Boston. Actually, I worked there for 12 years. And during those days, during my initial days of my career, there was one question that was asked in all the interviews consistently. In any interview you go, they would always ask this question. Where do you think you want to be in 3 years or 5 years? And especially when you're starting your job process, the first time you go for an interview, the only thing on your mind is you want to get a job. You wouldn't have thought, some of us at least, wouldn't have thought through where we want to be in 3 years or 5 years. I'm not sure whether this question is being asked anymore. Maybe because there was a startup boom, and as we all know, there are only 11% of the startups which are successful. Basically, what I'm trying to say is there's a lot of unpredictability. So maybe this question is not relevant. Nobody knows what's going to happen in 3 to 5 years. Anyways, I truly believe that this leadership quality of taking long view of the future should be on top of the list. Let me share one story. It's a pretty well-known story in the leadership circle. It's called the stone cutter story. So there were these 3 stone cutters busy working on cutting their stone, and a person walked up to them. He went to the first one and he asked them, what are you doing? So he said, the first stone cutter replied, I am earning a living. Then he went to the second stone cutter and he asked the same question. What are you doing? The second stone cutter said, I'm doing the best. I'm the best at what I'm doing. And then he went to the third stone cutter. The stone cutter thought for a while and he replied, I'm building a cathedral for people to worship. So when you look back, has this happened to us in our day-to-day life? Yes. On any given project, do all the people in the team know why and what they're working on? I'm sure we have all these 3 kinds of people. There are some who are working to earn a living. If given a choice, I'm sure they would prefer sitting on a beach. There might be the second few who are truly siloed and they're trying to do their best on their project. They really don't want to know the big picture. They don't want to understand. But there are a couple of people, actually mostly handful, who also have a sense of the bigger picture in what they're doing. The reason why I chose this story is because the cathedral term itself is an incredible testament to human endeavor. They often took more than 50 years to build, and those who designed them, those who first worked on them, knew they would never see them finished. So the key message here is, we may not need any more cathedrals, but we do need cathedral thinkers. People who can think beyond their lifetimes, like Warren Buffett or Ratan Tata. So let me talk about Warren Buffett. I'm sure all of you have heard about him. If you look at his history, he's known as one of the best investors in the world. And one thing that he does is that he always looks at the long-term view of the future for his company, for the stakeholders who trust him, and for himself too. He truly believes that he is going to do what is right. If you look at the history, he has not invested on technology stocks at all, even during boom time. Actually, he did invest last year after mulling over for 10 years. He did a lot of research on IBM, and he did invest on his first technology stock. But he never got pressurized just because there was a boom time on technology. He always looked at the long-term view, and we see the results. So I think it's a good time for me now to pause and maybe answer a few questions if you guys have. And during this time, some of you can reflect and see whether you are a cathedral thinker or do you know of any. Does anybody have any questions, or should I move on to the next mantra?
Yes, I've shared one question with you. Can you please check in the questions window?
Hi, Himanshu. So Himanshu's question is, are we saying that to develop leadership skills, we should take long view of the future? I would not, yes, what I'm trying to say is this is one of the skills that you should have, because if you're unable to see the long-term view of the future, how are you going to even build or carry the organization or the people along with you? Anirudh is asking how to determine the long-term and short-term goal. That's a very interesting question, Anirudh. There are different ways to do it, and one of the ways that I do it, I work on is actually there's a good phrase. They say think big and execute small. So you always need to think big. Even during my initial phase of my career, I started off as a computer science engineer. I always knew that my skills was more in management, and I wanted to get there. And I started working as a programmer, but I knew my end goal was to get into more in the operation side of the world. I wanted to meet people. I wanted to work with people, meet customers, and I broke it down, like how do I get there? And that helped me with my short-term and my long-term goal. Santosh asks a very good question. Is there any difference between a leader and a manager? Actually, there is. And as the anonymous quote said, leadership is action and not position. A manager is all about positions. It's all about title, about how many people he manages. He really doesn't care. No, I should not say really doesn't care, but it's more about managing things, not taking actions, not taking ownership in some cases, and not able to guide the team properly. So there's a huge difference between leadership and being a manager. Usually leaders are more proactive, while managers are very reactive. And a good leader is somebody who can create change, while a manager mostly maintains a status quo kind of stuff. And in my experience, I've worked with leaders who are not risk averse. They like to take risks, while managers, since they want to keep status quo, they just are pretty risk averse. In some cases, leaders come out as very passionate people. They follow their dreams. Not in some cases, in most of the cases. They truly follow their dreams. They really don't look at being popular, at trying to please people, while managers are more controlling. They try to get things done. And I think the biggest difference is leaders create loyal followers, while managers just have subordinates that they work for. So I think those are some of the differences between a leader and a manager. So Puneet is asking an interesting question. Puneet asks, do you think there is a right answer to where will you be in the next 10 years? Puneet, if I knew the right answer, I wouldn't be sitting here. Trust me on this. I would have invested and done very well on stocks. So there is no right answer, especially in this global technology-driven world. There's so many changes happening every day. I don't believe there is a right answer to where one will be in the next 10 years. There are some more questions. Maybe during the next mantra break, I will answer. Maybe I'll take one last question before I move to the next mantra. It's from Raghu. He says, hi ma'am, can you please answer the question which I faced in my interview? How you handle an ethical dilemma? How do you handle an ethical dilemma? I presume, Raghu, what you're trying to say is there was a question asked which was against your ethics and you didn't know how to answer, maybe that you didn't know how to handle it. Let me share my experience. During my interview, there was a question asked to me. One of the questions asked was, what would it take me to leave the company? And would there be anything that would irritate me, or would there be a reason for me to leave a company? And I said, yes, I would leave a company if people are not respected. I truly believe in that. I believe that if somebody is not getting respected, if there is discrimination, I won't be able to answer it. I won't be able to take it, and that's against my principles. That's an ethical dilemma. But I'm very clear that if anything like that happens, I would leave. So if during an interview, if anything was asked which was against your ethics, I would say you should do what you believe in. Jobs, you will be able to get it, but you should truly believe in what you do. Anyways, there are a couple more questions, but I will continue to my next mantra. Paint a vision. I feel a leader should be able to see the bigger picture, but that is not enough. Leaders should also be able to share the vision and get the team also to dream about the same vision. How many times have we come across leaders who have a vision but are not able to convince or influence the team, and this in turn leads to vision not being executed? Many a times. It is very important for leader to see what is going on. As they say, seeing in the wood for trees. And to do that, one needs to get the attention off of oneself. Why is it important to get the attention off of oneself? Because this way the leader gets to see things from other people's point of view. Maybe understand their capabilities and also know how to help them. Coming back to my stonecutter story, do you think the third stonecutter was a leader? Maybe he was. He was able to see the long-term view of the future. But he would have been a good leader if his view of work was shared by his workmates. In the early 2000s, I worked for this startup which was founded by Mr. Chris Stone. He was the ex-vice chairman of Nobel, and currently he is a venture capitalist. It was truly inspirational to work for him because he never tried selling his vision to either the organization or employees or customers or the investors. But what he did really well is he tried to show us how it directly benefits us, what is in it for us, and how the specific needs can be satisfied. I think that's very key. In most of the companies that we work, we also know that what usually happens is we have this goal setting exercise. There are this management team who goes on offsite, or they get locked into a room, they come up with this vision for the company, and then they share it with the rest of the people, and usually it gets cascaded down, and we are supposed to align our goals and vision with that. And how many times does it really work? Do we really believe what they did is right? It's a top-down effect. So what people want to hear is not just the vision, but what they really want to know is how their dreams will come true and their hopes are realized. This again ties to mantra number 1. They want to see themselves in the picture of the future that the leader is painting. Perfect example could be Akhilesh Yadav. I don't think everybody expected him to win with so much support because of his ability to share the vision, to connect, and to build a vision together. So now is a good time for you to think, who is your leader that you want to walk with while I answer a couple more questions. This is a question from Jana Gowda. I hope I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Till how far is the view suggested for? Because the challenges and roles do change as per situation, and most importantly, as one gets more ideas, goals change. Very good point, Jana Gowda. So what I would say is, we need to have a vision, we need to have a goal. Even personally, at any point of time, we have a view. We should have a long-term view, but one thing what we should not lose sight is we should be open for course correction at any point of time. It's not necessary that long-term view that we have is the ideal one, And with ever-changing times, we should also be nimble enough to change it. So, very good point. So Krishnan Kumar says, what about the success percentage for long-term goals? I think there are some possibilities for failure due to some sudden things. You're absolutely right, Krishnan. So the reason why you have to have long-term goals is for you to work towards it. Most of us as human beings, we work very well when there is an end goal. So that is another reason why, and to have a look at the future, especially as a leader, and as I just spoke about this, painting a shared vision. When you're working with different people and are able to share your vision and you're able to influence the others about what is in it for them, how do we make this dream successful, it's usually the success percentage is very high. And possibilities of failure, I think I just answered for Jana Gowda's question. It's very important for us also to not to see the woods in the forest. So if we are able to see, if we are able to see other people's point of view, this helps us basically to be more nimble and to make course corrections sooner. So we should be open for both. It's not just enough to see a long-term future and decide that since I've made this as my future goal, I should not make any changes to it. So they both are not mutually exclusive. Rajneesh asks, what is more important for a leader, putting numbers first or strategy first while setting up a long-term plan? Definitely strategy. At least I believe numbers are just numbers. You need to have a strategy in place. You need to not just have a strategy, but you also need to know how are you going to execute the strategy. And just remember, a leader is not alone. A leader is only there when you have a team of people that you can lead. So you need a good team of people who are going to help you execute this strategy. So Prasad asks this question, in the dynamic world with a lot of changes and business perspective dominating, does the big picture thing really work? Actually, Prasad, it's very important how much of a dynamic the world is to have a big picture. And again, I would just like to state that one needs to keep their eyes open, be aware about what's happening, and make changes to the long-term view. It's not necessary. It's not necessary since it's dynamic that you keep building a plan every day. It's not so dynamic that you need to change. If you have thought through and if you understand the big picture, then there'll be minor tweaks more so than anything. That's my 2 cents. Rajesh Manikandan, he's asked, please suggest a few very nice books that you appreciate on leadership during this webinar. Definitely, Rajesh. Some of the books that I truly believe is How to Influence and Win Friends. That's by Dale Carnegie. That's something I read quite often, and I believe is very, very helpful. Second is about leadership by Rudolph Giuliani. Outliers by Malcolm Gladwell, and also Jack Welch. And it's not just about books, there are many things. There's some coaches that you can follow. What got you I'm forgetting the name of the book, but I'll just remember and I'll tell you. He's another very well-known executive coach. His name is Marshall Goldsmith. He's another person that you can follow. Anyways, there are more questions, but let's carry on to the next mantra, and we can take it. And during the break, I'll answer more questions. Make speedy and creative decisions. Why is this my third mantra? I feel decisions are something that each one has to make at every stage. Especially nowadays in our day-to-day life, just go to a coffee shop. Look at the amount of choices that we have. Cappuccino, frappuccino, cafe mocha. It's not simple. You just, even if you want a simple coffee, a filter coffee, you don't get it anymore. So now take our professional life. Most of us work with distributed teams, different time zones, different cultures, and decisions have to be made sometimes with not enough data. It's the truth. We usually don't have enough data, and if we are trying to get all the data, the cows will come home. So slow decision making can be a huge disadvantage, and if you are an indecisive leader, it is worse. In my experience, I used to work with one such leader. He had worked in the company for some 20 odd years, I think, very highly respected, well-read, a good person, but totally indecisive. Even basic requests would lead to meetings. He always wanted a consensus agreement. He was risk averse. And if we reached a deadlock, then we were in real trouble because no decision would happen. And this, in turn, would lead to more delays, more frustrations among people, and more unhappy people. Have you guys been in that position? I hope you're not. But in my experience, I've been through this situation more times than I would want to be. And that's a good learning experience too. When you have such leaders, you know what are some things that you don't want to do. Is you don't want to be indecisive and you want to be. So it is key for a leader to be great at being brave enough to rise above the populace and do the right thing. And most of the times in organization, a speedy decision is valued over a correct decision. There is a philosophy of correcting things as they move forward, especially nowadays. Speedy and creative decisions drives the changes needed in the organization to stay ahead of the market. It is a must. So, are you indecisive? As you guys ponder, let me answer a few questions. So Girish asks this question. Let me just try to understand your question, Girish. What you're saying is, in the industry, we used to follow the project management role in the companies. Now, I think it will change to technical project manager and administrative project manager. What do you think? Why do you say that? Why do you, are you saying that a typical project management role will not exist in companies anymore because we are moving from waterfall to agile? I don't really believe. The reason is some of the services companies, or most of them, if you look at their delivery teams, they are huge. So they do need managers who have to motivate, who have to take care of other people management things, planning, people management, resource management, etc. So I believe that we will still have project management roles. I hope I understood your question correctly, Girish. So Prasad asks a very good question. What are the ways to tackle or work with a bad leader or a leader who is not organized, who does not have a systematic approach, and who does not have an idea of strategic goals? Prasad, what do I see? I really feel bad for you. Just joking. I've had such leaders. You should look at it as a good learning experience. When you're going through this phase, you feel terrible, you feel frustrated, especially if this leader is a bad listener when you give them feedback and you try to help them see your point of view. They're not able to read your point of view. First of all, they're not leaders if they're not able to understand and take feedback from you guys, from you. I feel the best way to do is lead by example. So you will have to take up the action and maybe try to organize and support the leader and hope that he gets the point, he or she gets the point and sees where you're coming from, how important it is, and talk about the benefits of doing it and show the results. Results usually speaks 1,000 words. So if they are able to see that that the results by going your way, that is, you have a strategic goal and then you break it down and then you start doing it, working it, breaking it down into smaller pieces and working on it and see the results will be much higher. Hopefully, this leader will learn from you and you can be a good leader. So Euro is asking a question. If a person needs to perform as both leader and manager, does he really need to put a boundary somewhere in his work? Not really. I think a leader is somebody who dons many roles. As I told you, a manager is just managing things, but a leader has to take the initiatives. The leader does all the actions, has to work on it. I don't think there's any such thing as a boundary. These are roles and responsibilities that you have to perform, and once you know what are the roles and responsibilities, I don't think you have to put it in any bucket that this belongs to a leader or this belongs to a manager. You're taking an initiative, you have to work on it, you need to get it done, and you need a team of people to get it, to work on this, and you want to do it in a collaborative way. I think all this is a mark of a leader, and you don't have to play, there's no such boundary as a leader or manager. I don't believe so. Yeah, Vikas Kumar is asking a question. How can you show leadership skills if you don't have authority? Again, as I mentioned, authority is just, this is something which I keep getting questioned. When I talk to some of the newer members within the team, they keep saying that, oh, we are new in the company and we don't have the authority, so we will not be able to execute it as well as somebody who's been in the company for a longer period of time or who has a title. So basically, authority, I would say, is you're relating the cast to title. Actually, it means nothing. So from a very young age, I remember I've always seen people who, if they believe in something, if you truly believe, and you don't need any authority to do anything. Look at Anna Hazare. He didn't need any authority as such. He believed in something, he took the leadership, and he worked on it. So that's, if you have, people can see it. Even in your role and responsibilities, maybe you don't have to, you're not a manager, you're not leading a team, but still it will stand out. As a leader, you will be taking initiatives, and it doesn't matter which position you're in, whether you're fresh out of school or you've been in the system for too long. The skills you can exhibit, and you should. So Dinesh Pandey, he says, hi Vidya, I really don't agree with your definition of explanation between leader and manager, because being a project manager, I have the whole sole responsibility of making decisions about all the risks, technology to be used, resolving any technical or logical hurdles, and resolving all business and non-business queries. So Dinesh, that's fantastic. I think you're a leader. It's good. Maybe you just have a title as a project manager, but you're doing much more, and it's really nice. I do agree with you. in many projects, I was just trying to reflect back. In some of the projects, it's not as simple as the project managers are just, they don't have the authority, or they're just trying to manage things. That's also not true. I do agree with you, Dinesh. There's some cases where you are given autonomous power and then you act like one, and it clearly shows that Dinesh, you're one of those people who takes up ownership and responsibility and is accountable. So, fair enough. Okay, let us go to the next mantra, and then I'll answer some more questions. Show your feelings. I think this is very, very key. How many leaders have you worked with who truly show their feelings, or who are, what should I say, very stoic in their presence? Let's start by agreeing on one thing. So as human beings, we bring our full selves to work with us, right? That is body, mind, and spirit. But there are also some leaders who are good at not showing their feelings. One person who comes to mind is Manmohan Singh. Just kidding. I used to have this direct report. She was one of the most hardworking and dedicated person that I've ever worked with. But one thing was very clear was that when it was crunch time, everybody knew that it was crunch time because she used to be so stressed, she would snap easily, rude responses to emails, outbursts in front of the whole team, and that's not the feeling I'm talking about. I'm not saying that you should suppress your feelings, but what I'm saying is I'm sure all of us experience that. There's a very important delivery. We've committed to our customer. We are under the gun, and there'll be some teammate who is not putting his or her full potential. And that's what we feel, that this person is not carrying the weight and it's pulling the project delivery down. What do? Instead of showing our negative feelings with negative words, I think this is the time. What we need to do is we need to sit, talk to this person. Maybe it's not easy because all of us, we know how it is. It's especially during crunch time. It's definitely not easy. But one thing is there, we should not try to exhibit our negative feelings. Instead of using negative words, what we can use is, we can say something like, I'm so surprised during the situation, you are taking it so easy. What this happens is you're not using all your negative energy and words instantly. Instantly they feel they're not feeling defensive, and they're able to have a conversation, and it becomes easier for them to respond, and also people be able to see their point of view. Maybe there is something going on with them. So the kind of leader I am is someone who is eternally positive, very passionate, candid, forthright, and some of the feedback received is that I exude a lot of positive energy. So I think it's very important to have feelings as a leader, because when you have feelings, you're able to connect with people. And I'm not just talking about your team members, but anybody. When others look at you and they say that, oh, this person is not a machine, they also have the same kind of problems as we do. They also feel happy when we do the same kind of things. They are emotionally able to connect very easily. And I'm sure many of you have read this. Nowadays, people are giving more importance to EQ rather than IQ. IQ is necessary, but emotional quotient is more important than intellectual quotient. So that's why it's so important for us to be able to exhibit our feelings, but having said that, in the right way. Another subset of feeling is also being passionate. I believe that in our role, it's very necessary to be passionate. We have to raise their energy and motivate and inspire people. And also, I believe that passion puts vision into practice. A leader who's passionate about work mostly is also, not mostly, all the time, is also passionate about people who work for him or her. After all, a leader needs a team to lead. I hope you guys are still with me. Before I take the next questions, let me share what Warren Buffett had to say. His quote is, "Do what you are passionate about. If you do this, there will be few people competing or running faster than you." And I couldn't agree more with him, what he has to say. So as you guys are thinking about this quote, let me answer some questions. Yeah, Rohit Raina has asked a very good question, and we face it day in and day out, Rohit. I feel your pain. What he's saying is, how should team leader react if one of his team members is not performing even after a lot of efforts? Conditions: company don't want to lose this person. First of all, first question is, why does the company not want to lose this person if he is not performing? Usually we know that most of our, in the corporate world, we have something called as a performance plan. We try to give them focused. Performance plan is not a way to get a person out. It's not the exit strategy, but actually in many cases I've seen that it works for the benefit of the employee, because there are times when they're freshers out of college who are working for the first time, they're not able to manage their backlog of work properly. So they digress and they start concentrating on everything. So does this problem, does this person have a problem trying to manage his work? Is he hardworking? First is, if his attitude is right and he has the right aptitude, it definitely is worth sitting, trying to support this person and help this person with the backlog, trying to make this person concentrate on what needs to get done, and look and see if this person also needs training on some of the skills. So the question is, if you're saying, my question that I had is, Rohit, you say that there's a lot of effort being put, but still the company doesn't want to lose. So that's the contradiction I don't understand. If somebody, is this person really good to have? Why? So that's the only thing. So Paratosh is asking me, hi Vidya, any one trait that's strict no for a leader? Is there one? In my 2 cents, I believe there is one. A leader should have integrity. If he or she doesn't have integrity, I believe that's a strict no. So Deepika is asking this question. Once in college, I had a team that would believe everything I said and considered it to be right. I was sometimes frustrated because I wanted them to question, to disagree. How do we deal with this? How can the leader encourage the followers to challenge them and their vision? Deepika, that's a good question. Actually, in leadership, they talk about such kind of managers. We usually have 3 kinds of managers. There's one who basically they have this master relationship. They truly believe that whatever the leader says is right, and they don't want to question. And sometimes it's cultural too. We know that in our Asian culture, the way we've been brought up, at least initially, now we do encourage, but 10, 15 years ago, when we used to go to college, we could question the professors. We always are told to respect the elders. So it starts from home, saying that, oh, they are old, because of experience, what they say is right. And notice that many of these people also come from small towns where it's very prevalent. So, and I'm talking about Asian cultures, it's not just India, but also I've worked with many folks from different parts of Asia, and they all have this culture. It's ingrained in them. So it's part of the DNA, that not to question. So that could be part of it. So what one needs to do as a leader when they see that nobody is questioning and they're agreeing to everything somebody is saying, that's when the leader needs to take a back step and also has to don the role of a coach. So one of the things a coach needs to do is basically try to talk to the person and get questions and try to probe and get things out. Instead of the leader always talking, the leader should try to become a good listener and try to get others to speak and try to probe, and that's the only way that I can think of. And I understand, Deepika, your frustration when you see that nobody is challenging, and maybe you, Deepika, you could take up this action and be a leader and try to encourage others and try to be a role model, try to question so that they get the fear out of them that it's okay. I'm just asking a question. Is it possible for one to become a good leader without going for MBA? In other words, without the MBA degree? Yes, you don't need to have an leader, is a good leader. So of course, yes. And a prime example, I'm not saying I'm a great or a good leader, but I don't have an MBA degree. And that should say it all. Thanks. So Suresh is asking me, just keen to know what are the challenges you faced during early days of your leadership role. That's interesting, Suresh. One of the challenges, so I went to Boston to study and I started my career there. And as I told you, I started as a computer science engineer. And mostly, if you see in the engineering side of the world, there are very few women. So one is trying to fit in because you're working with stereotypical people, and they used to that, right? There are very few women, at least during those days, in 1990s. I started my career in 1996, so I would be the only engineer with around 20 people. So one was there was a cultural difference. Second was so I was also the only woman, and we think differently. And inclusivity, I guess that's the biggest challenge, I would say. What was my leadership challenge? To try to make everybody be inclusive, because in general, if you've read about, in general, a leader is somebody who has this nurturing capability, who wants to get everybody involved, and that's something you will notice. You don't want to leave out anybody, and another thing is I was very verbose, and I never stopped myself. If I didn't believe in anything, I would speak up, and not every time being a candid person you get accepted. So I think that was the biggest challenge, trying to get accepted initially was a challenge. But once they started seeing the results, it becomes so much more easier. So Jay Gopal is asking, there are chances where the leader's strategy may fail in some cases. How the leader should react to that scenario? Yeah, one of the qualities which I'm not speaking about, but it's very essential within a leader, is to accept their fault when they fail. They should be the people who should be talking about it, accepting, taking ownership and accountability for it. A good leader is somebody who always takes accountability when there's failures and gives credits to others when there's a success. So I would say he should be very candid and truthful. He or she should be very candid or truthful and not try to hide things, because people can see through it. So coming back, I'll answer some more questions. Coming back to our last mantra, listen, listen, listen. I think this is the key differentiator between a good leader and a great leader. A great leader is a very good listener. Have you ever sat on a scheduled one-on-one meeting and while you are talking, suddenly you see this person taking calls or writing emails or sending SMSs, and it's a scheduled one-on-one meeting? How do you feel about it when such a thing happens? Do you feel you're being discounted? Do you feel that a person can do multitasking? So very early in my career, one of the first leadership trainings that I attended was about listening. Actually, it was inclusivity and listening skills. And I think that really taught, and I realized the value and importance. It's very important to look into a person's eye, because not every time does the person convey anything just by talking or over email. So you have to look at other things, look for other cues like their body language. And I've noticed that most of the good leaders usually practice it. They try to see to it that they can give undivided attention or listen totally. When they're sitting in a meeting, they do have eye-to-eye contact and talk to the person, take notes. And that's very, very important. One needs to listen and understand the pulse and try to empathize with this other person too. I was also watching TV the other day, and there was an interview being done on a junior reporter, and one of the questions asked to the junior reporter was, which leader would he like to interview at any given point of time? And without battling an eyelid, the answer which he gave was Bill Clinton. And he said Clinton had the uncanny ability to make anybody he spoke to feel important, as he would devote all his attention on them, irrespective of who was present. And he was narrating that during one of those meetings. There were a lot of other industry leaders out there, presidents, ex-presidents. Bill Gates was also there. Supposedly Bill Gates was standing next to this junior reporter, but Bill Clinton still made the junior reporter feel as important as everybody else. And that's what he remembers and he felt so important about. And I think most of the people here also, if you work with anybody, when you give them undivided attention, you will notice the difference. So in business settings especially, one needs to ask questions that move the conversation forward, and that will give another opportunity to listen to the speaker. It is important for the leaders usually to make the first move, to ask for questions, to ask for feedback. So good listeners usually solicit feedback, and just not solicit feedback, but more importantly, they also take action based on the feedback. So in the book, What Got You Here Won't Get You There by executive coach Marshall Goldsmith, he says this. He says 80% of our success in learning from other people is based on listening. So what does it mean? It means that success or failure is determined before we do anything. Just remember that. Can you believe it? 80% of our success is learning from other people, and it's totally based on listening. So it's very important trait for a leader to have the ability to listen to those unsaid words, to listen to those pauses in the sentences, and it's very key for a good leader, a great leader. So finally, I'm done with all my 5 mantras. As I mentioned, I think I've 5 mantras. The first one is take long-term view of the future, paint a shared vision, just not a vision, a shared vision, make speedy and creative decisions, show your feelings, and finally listen. There's one more mantra that I really wanted to share because I personally work very hard at it, and I believe it will be very beneficial to all of you. The reason why I didn't put it as a mantra is it's intertwined with all the other mantras. Building relationships. I think this is something which is very key. A good leader usually doesn't burn bridges because a leader understands how long it takes to build a relationship. What's the time taken? What's the effort taken to do so? My father was in the army, so I traveled with him, and every 2 years we would get transferred. So one thing I had to learn very early in life is build new relationships. And during those days, we didn't have technology that we could hang on to the old relationships either. But now, thanks to it. But I truly believe that I learned a lot, and this got me ahead. And so what I mean is, I understood how to build relationships and the value of relationship at a very young age, and now where I'm using it in the business world, it's very important to have networks. It's building networks is very key, especially in the world that we are. It's a very small world. We tend to meet different people, and we do need to build our networks to be ahead and to understand what's happening to them. We should be able to reach out to people when need be. So that's my final 2 cents. So let me answer more questions. So Aniruddha asks this question, maybe out of track. To be a leader, need to be fearless. People say I have leadership qualities, but I do have a lot of fear of failure, fear of insult. How to overcome those? I think, Anirudh, you've already started overcoming it by stating it. They say that once you are aware of your problems, you can start working on it. Maybe you can take small steps. Fear of failure and fear of insult. The fear factor is something as you start working more on it, and maybe once you fail and you see what happens, good leaders always have been successful because of the failures. So you will overcome it, and I think you already know the problem. So I believe that you should be able to work specifically on your fear of failure part. Maybe you should take up something which you are very scared of, any sport or something which you believe you're bad, and people will make fun of you, maybe take, acting on a stage or presenting in front of people. So that's a good start, and overcome that. Once you see that it's not so bad, with experience you'll get over it. So Sunita asked me this question. You mentioned you started as a programmer and always wanted to move to management. I am in the exact same position. Started as a software engineer and now working. How I am not clear on my options of how I can enter leadership team. In my organization, I see it an extreme far goal, like maybe 10 to 12 years. So Sunita, being a leader, so one is fitting into the organization tracks, right? The grade, the role and responsibilities. So I would like to separate it into two parts, the grade part and the role and responsibility part. You're saying you're already working as a project manager, and one thing what you can start doing is that um, take up more responsibilities than what you are doing. Take up some of the things what you believe a leader within your organization is working on. Because one thing, once you start working on it and people start seeing that you're there, usually it's very difficult for them to say that, okay, to give you answers like you're not really there, you need to work on this. Try to take up leadership training. Try to volunteer yourself on many of these things that you believe the leader is working on, and also try building your social network. One of the things that women in general, I don't know about you, Sunita, but I'm making a very general statement. Is that we have so much to balance. We have home to balance, we have work, and the calls at night. And one thing what we usually end up not doing enough is networking. I think it's not just enough to take up all this leadership within your team. It's not just enough for your immediate managers to see what you're doing, but it's also good if you talk to his peers, and if everybody in the organization is aware what you are doing, or how you're working towards your end goal. That will also maybe speeden up your process of getting where you want to get. Vaibhav is asking this question. When you say we have to be decisive, does it also mean that once you decide to go with one choice, you should also say no to other options, at least for some time? Vaibhav? What can I say? It's already, I feel that this is a decisive question that you're asking. Yes, at any given point of time, when you have options, you can only choose one, and maybe you can correct it later on, but you can't have two decisions at any given point of time. So yes, my answer is maybe the other options will go to the back burner. You have to weigh what the pros and cons are, but always remember there's one solution for given to be a point of time. When you're making a decision, there has to be only one thing. Janagada is asking, while taking decisions, which one is to be given higher priority? Project perspective, project priorities, or maybe Janagada, I don't understand the question. So you're saying project perspective, or priorities, or objectives, or organizational objectives, because at times they differ. I agree with you. I know what you're talking about. Sometimes, especially in a captive environment, when we're working in a captive environment or in the services side where we have clients, the organization has its own set of objectives and priorities, and we are working with a customer which has its own set. So this is an executive decision that one needs to make. You will have to, I don't have enough context to really give you the right answer here, but many a times I've seen decisions going either way, depending upon it. I know I've made decisions which were not in line with the organizational objectives, because I had to because I believe that the project perspective had to be priority had to be given higher priority. So it's something which you have to weigh, looking at all the pros and cons. Murli is asking this question. Nowadays, people are emphasizing on right first time. So how valid a statement you made that getting things speedily is more important than getting it correct? I really mean it. If you look at most of the companies, any of these startups, or especially to give you an example, nobody is looking at having the right or correct or perfect solution first time. We don't have that luxury. Maybe 20 years ago or 15 years ago we had that luxury, but at this point of time, speed to market is very key, and to get there, one knows that we have to make decisions based on sometimes not enough information, sometimes maybe no information, but the solution here is creative thinking. One needs to think out of the box. One needs to use as much tools as possible as available, like the social media or anything else that one can enhance on. And ideally, it would be good if we got it right the first time, but I don't believe there's anything as getting right first time. We don't have it in our DNA. When we were kids, we did walk correctly the first time. We fell quite a few times before we learned how to walk. So it's very, I can't relate to this statement at all, frankly. Weibel was asking a question: is it okay to take risks which you feel should be taken and are good for the organization? Shall those risks be taken if you won't be getting approval and then prove that you were right? Is it okay to go for forgiveness and permission sometimes? It reminds me of my college days, Vaibhav. Just joking. So I think the essence of your question, what you are asking is, you believe that one needs to take a risk because it's good for the organization, but maybe your higher up or somebody is not giving the approval. So are you saying that we should go ahead, I would like to go ahead and do it, and then afterwards tell them, and if I'm right, that's well and good. If I'm wrong, I'll ask for forgiveness. Vaibhav, I wouldn't take that approach at all. If you truly believe that one needs to take a risk, then one of the things that you need to build is trying to influence your team, trying to collaborate with them, and then trying to work with them. And if you truly believe in it, that's the right way to do it, because by not being transparent and doing this, even if you are successful, what happens is you lose a level of trust, and that's something that you don't want to lose. So I would not advise you to do that. Rajneesh is asking, a lot of leaders bulldoze your ideas or concepts by putting their weight around. With no authority to influence at the highest level, how do you take everyone along with you? Rajneesh, one of the advice that I think I was giving Sunita before is, it's very key for you to, for one to network well with the team. One should not just work within their team. I know of many members who just come into work, they go to their table or their cube, they sit, do their work. Once they're done, they're out of the office. They don't try to socialize, they don't try to find out what's happening in different projects, they don't want to talk to anybody when there are happy hours, nobody wants to mingle. I think it's very important, Rajneesh, for you to socialize your ideas, to start talking, not just with leaders within your team, but also outside. So build your network. And then once you start talking more, you start getting ideas on how you can work on it, or how you can build your influencing powers. Because it's not always the case that one needs authority to influence people. I truly don't believe in it. Because I've worked in different places, and I've also traveled a lot, my father being in the army, and I've noticed that when you build, when you have ideas, when you're able to talk, socialize with different people, you get different feedback, and you should be open for feedback also, and then they give you ideas on how to get it done. When somebody sees you're so passionate, there'll be one person who will support you with it. So my advice is try to build your network, socialize the ideas, and don't worry about authority. It's just a myth according to me. Authorities usually don't work. If you have a good idea and if you're able to socialize, talk to people, keep talking, be persistent, you will be able to get it done. So Girish is asking this question. If you are burdened with projects and you as a leader have to spread positive nature amongst people under you or around you, also does it takes the dignity down when we share with feelings with people around? Girish, if I understand your question right, you're saying that you already have enough things to do with the project. You have a delivery, you're totally stressed out, but still you need to keep a face of being very positive. Or maybe you know some bad news, but still you need to keep this positive energy as you have a team of people whom you want to motivate and inspire. And you're asking that if I were to vent my feelings with anybody, would they lose respect for me? I guess that's how I'm interpreting this question that you've asked, Girish. How do I handle it? Let me tell you, I have good days and bad days. And one thing which I try to keep is a smile. This is something which I learned from my leader before, that one needs to smile at every situation, be calm and cool, but it's not necessary to hide. So you always have this one confidant. You should find somebody whom you can soundboard with and throw out some of your frustrations and talk to them and say, okay, this is not happening right. Because when you have the soundboarding buddy, then they will be able to see things from a different perspective. So sometimes we are so pigeonholed in a project that we are not able to see all the other sides and we get frustrated. So I think that is one advice I would give is you can talk. And it's okay to share with your team as long as it's not negative. You can talk to your team about how things are not going well within this project because of X, Y, and Z reason, but this is something that you need to look into and you're trying to resolve. You're just sharing it. You just wanted somebody to hear you out. That's also perfectly fine. No, your dignity will not be lost. So Ashok Chakrabarti has a question. He's saying 8 years of determined pursuit of objectives and yet to no results. Hard and grueling and dedicated labor going berserk and all efforts turned into objects of futile mockery in the face of unrelenting adversity. How does a leader react? Yeah, sure. That's life of a leader. Just kidding. So coming to your question, 8 years, you're saying that you're really working on the objectives. The question that I have is, do you think the objectives are right? Maybe there was some kind of course correction, and with these objectives, did you share it with everybody? Was there a collaborative effort worked on this? Because as I again mentioned, a leader is not just one person. It's a team of people that, makes, it's not any kind of credit or discredit. You have a team of people that you have to work with. So if you're saying that it was it's a face of unrelenting adversity, one thing what I would do if I were you is, first and foremost is call all the people and talk it out. Try to put it out there saying, this was the objective. Try to share with them and say, this was what I believe was the objective and working on. Is this correct? Do we agree or disagree? And you should also have a constant feedback mechanism so that you don't have to wait so long for the adversity or the negative energy to build. So one is talk it out. Second is also understand the pulse. Where are they coming from? Why is there so much adversity? What happened that has led to a situation like this? So maybe if you yourself are able to ask these questions, or sometimes it's always good to get somebody from outside, not anybody from the company, from outside, and for them to look at it from a third party's point of view. There's some things maybe you're missing which they are able to see. So that's another piece of advice. I think you should do what you're doing, Ashok. If you truly believe what you're doing is right, you should do, but you should try to listen more, try to get more feedback, solicit the feedback, and take actions and share it. Communicate more with what's happening so that you can bring down the adversity levels. And as I told you, get a third party if you can get. Nishant is asking, do leaders prefer people who are intelligent but not team player versus people who are average but good team player? To tell you frankly, mostly if you look at any of the leaders, you will notice that they are surrounded with people who have good attitude and also good aptitude. What I mean to say is it's very necessary for people to be good team players, and especially in a global and distributed environment where most of us are working, we give a lot of importance to being a good team player. It's essential to be good. But I'm not, I believe that, as you said, they're average people. As long as they have the aptitude to learn, yes, that's what I would look at, or most of the leaders look at. Vibrant is asking this question. What if you have a person in your team who tries to sit long hours, tries to get things done, but still fails consistently to show progress? And somewhere you know it's because he actually doesn't have his heart in the process. What if you have a person? I would have a chat with this person instantly and also try to figure out what and where this person fits correctly. What does this person want to do? If you believe that this person is a good asset to the organization, is hardworking, but is not interested in what he's doing, and that's the reason why he's not able to show the results, then maybe there's a skill set mismatch, and you can support and help this person and guide this person to get their goals, to work on their goals and achieve it. So that's what I would do. Because it's not adding value either to your team, or nor is it adding value to this person. Anand Pandya says, hi Vidya, thank you very much for sharing your leadership mantra. It was really interesting going through presentation and learning new angle on leadership. Look forward for more presentations. Oh, thanks Anand. Appreciate your lovely email or message. Thank you. How important is one to sharpen the saw in terms of taking leadership workshops? If yes, how frequently? So Rajesh Diogiri asks this question. So Rajesh, I used to be a person who was not a big promoter of workshops and trainings, and I was one of those people who believed that you either have the skill or not. But I must say, after attending a couple of workshops, or more than a couple of workshops and trainings, it really is helpful. I don't know whether there is any specific training programs which is better than the other, and that helped me, but it really does. Because in one of my leadership training, what they did was they took this 360-degree feedback from two senior members, two of my peers, two people reported into me, and I think that was really interesting because it does a reflection of what you believe you're doing and how people look at you, and then they taught you in understanding what those feedback is. Sometimes we get so much feedback, and to read through the noise, we lose it. And I believe that's been very helpful. Many of these trainings nowadays especially are very catered, and I would advise, I went to this customized leadership training. If you are able to do that, I would surely recommend it. It really helps you sharpen the saw. And experience also helps. But most importantly, if you have your eyes open, if you have your ears open, that's the key. Connecting with people, talking to people also helps you. But yeah, leadership workshops is a good thing. I would highly recommend it. And how frequently? I think I've seen, I don't know, the first time training leadership, it's over a span of year, they have 3 of these, and then the mid-level is over a span of a year, they have 2. So the senior leadership also we have over a period of, it's ongoing process, it just doesn't stop. So first is get the feedback, then work on it, then afterwards present it, then look at the actions, do reflection. So you should try to do as frequently as you can, and I would say at least twice in a year. It depends how the workshop is spread. So that's it, guys. Thank you so much for attending the workshop. If you have any questions, feel free to ping me offline. Thank you. I think I will present it back to the organizer now.
Uh, Thanks, Vidya, for taking this webinar. It was indeed an enlightening session. I would also like to thank our participants for making this webinar a huge success. A recording of this webinar will be uploaded on techgig.com by tomorrow. Next webinar is happening today at 5 p.m. Topic is customer acquisition through social media. The speaker would be Pradeep Chopra, CEO at Digital Vidya. So see you all at 5 p.m. Thank you.